G'day, Chris here. I'm a casual player of ESO. I'm ESO's biggest fan. I'm also super casual when it comes to combat. Update 35 has me really worried. Light attacks will be a flat rate regardless of stats. I assume that means all sources of stats from Mundus, CP, sets, attributes, passives, the lot. I get what is happening here. Players who are not so good at rapidly applying light attacks will certainly get a boost. It'll be great for players who are not so adept or who are just newer. And uber players at the top end with the perfect muscle memory, practice, youth on their side, great reflexes, they're in for a big nerf. Talk about heavy attacks was minimal, but I'll assume that the same will apply to them as well. The damage ratio between light and heavy attacks would have to stay the same, or else we'll be just standing there doing heavy attacks from now on. I can't see that happening. But update 35 is all about spell weaving, which this lazy solo casual player doesn't do because I don't like it. Yeah, I think Zos are right to assume that at the lower end, players are less likely to do spell weaving. Thus, to rein in those damage numbers, hit the light attacks, which are half of the spell weaving after all, hit the light attacks at the top end and give a bit of a boost to those players at the bottom as well. It's a great way to kill off spell weaving, RIP spell weaving. Hey, I don't do it, so I don't care. It's definitely one part of the game I felt excluded from as a solo casual player because I don't have the time or the desire to just stand for hours on end at a target dummy trying to perfect what... Is that enjoyable? Chasing big damage numbers is the only way that I can enjoy the game? I'm a heavy attack lightning staff kind of guy. Hey, the current character that I'm playing, Death Mistress Tarjita, have a look at my videos. I'm a Magicka Necro. I've loaded up my school bars with lots of CDs. It's a full-time job trying to keep up 2 bars worth of CDs, but hey, I have a lot of fun. Hey, and in those brief moments where I've not got to worry about my CDs, I can stand there, have a bit of a break, or just mix things up a bit, keep the mouse button down and enjoy the heavy attacks. I like that variety in the fights. And as I'm standing there, holding the mouse button down to get that heavy attack off, I can watch my CDs working and look at those sweet numbers with the exclamation marks. Thus, I can see that Zos are trying to help those of us who aren't at the top end, but if heavy attacks are also nerfed, and they have to be if light attacks are nerfed, then I feel as though my routine, my rotation, the way I play the game will be adversely affected. If I'm trying to do some really difficult content and I'm moving around, keeping out of the red stuff, keeping my CDs up, and I've got a brief moment to fire off a heavy attack, then I love that moment where I get a bit of a breather and hey, it feels as though I really am doing some damage as well. It is worthwhile trying to get that heavy attack off. But if those heavy attacks are nerfed, then I'm disincentivized to try and do that. So I lose a string to my bow. All I've got to do is just keep the CDs up and move out of the way. Right now, my character feels as though it's in a good place. I've got a lovely balance of cooldowns, movements, and light attacks and heavy attacks. Trying to rein in those huge damage numbers at the very top end. And hey, let's be honest, it's only about 1% of the players, isn't it? Trying to rein those huge numbers in is now going to adversely affect me as well. But the story gets worse because apparently the DOTs, the amount of time that the damage will last for, is being extended. But of course, the damage per tick, so that damage overall will remain the same, the damage per tick will be decreased. Sounds good in theory, but what about those difficult fights where the mobs are moving around? If I lay down a damage over time and the mobs just rush right through it, then with update 35, those mobs will take less damage. That means that in, say, a difficult boss fight, for example, it's going to last a lot longer. As an older player, for example, when I was farming the dungeon for the Treasure Hunter set, I found some of those fights exhausting, and if those fights have to go a lot longer, I'm probably not going to be bothered attempting them. With those long fights, I have to try to maintain focus, concentration, and as an older gamer, that's really fatiguing. So I'll be really, really reluctant to attempt those world bosses that I know they're meant for groups, but I enjoy the challenge anyway because I know that if I get my act together, I can take down a lot of those world bosses myself. Please, Zos, consider the impact on other players. Not just, I understand that you want to rein in those damage numbers at the very top end, but please think about solo, casual players, slightly older or much older players such as myself. I have a feeling that we are going to be adversely impacted as well. For anyone who bothered to watch this video, thank you very much, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Do you agree or disagree? Basically that. Now, please don't troll me by asking me to get good or I only need to practice for an hour to do my spell weaving, and I'll just delete your comment, okay, if I get trolled. But I genuinely would like to hear from other casual players, especially solo casual players, because I suspect that most of the time we are solo casual players, the vast majority of the player base. Once again, thank you very much. Spicy Chris, over and out.